The salty sea breeze whipped through Alexios's dark curls as he stood at the prow of the small fishing boat, his keen eyes fixed on the horizon. The young man had always felt an inexplicable connection to the sea, a pull that went beyond mere familiarity. As the son of a humble fisherman from a coastal village in ancient Greece, Alexios had grown up with the rhythm of the waves in his blood. Yet lately, that connection had intensified, accompanied by strange dreams of colossal, one-eyed beings and a powerful, bearded man wielding a trident. Beside him stood Calista, a fiery-haired merchant's daughter with a thirst for adventure that matched his own. Her green eyes sparkled with excitement as she pointed towards a mass of land emerging from the mist. "Alexios, look! Could that be the fabled island of the Cyclops?" she asked, her voice tinged with both fear and anticipation. Alexios nodded, a mix of emotions churning in his gut. They had set out on this perilous journey in search of a legendary treasure, said to be guarded by the fearsome one-eyed giants of myth. As they drew closer to the island's jagged shoreline, Alexios couldn't shake the feeling that he was approaching more than just a dangerous adventure. He was sailing towards his destiny. The craggy cliffs loomed above them, casting long shadows over the turbulent waters. In the distance, they could make out the yawning mouth of a massive cave, its entrance obscured by a tangle of vines and ancient gnarled trees. Ismene, the wise old storyteller who had insisted on joining their quest, hobbled to Alexios's side. Her wrinkled face was etched with concern as she placed a gnarled hand on his arm. "Be wary, young one," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the crashing waves. "The Cyclops are not mere monsters to be trifled with. They are the children of Poseidon himself, and their island holds secrets that could shake the very foundations of your world." With a jarring crunch, their boat struck the pebbly shore. Alexios leapt out, his sandaled feet sinking into the wet sand. As he helped Calista and Ismene disembark, a distant roar echoed from the heights of the island, sending a shiver down his spine. The adventure he had so eagerly sought now stood before him, rife with danger and mystery. Little did Alexios know that this journey would not only test his courage and wit, but also unravel the very truth of his existence. As the trio ventured deeper into the island's lush interior, the air grew thick with an otherworldly mist. Alexios led the way, his hand resting on the hilt of his short sword, every sense alert for danger. The dense foliage seemed to whisper ancient secrets, and more than once, Alexios could have sworn he saw massive shadowy figures moving just beyond the tree line. Calista kept pace beside him, her own dagger at the ready, while Ismene followed, leaning heavily on her gnarled staff, her eyes darting about as if reading invisible signs in the air. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. A deafening roar shattered the eerie silence, causing birds to erupt from the treetops in a panicked flurry. "Cyclops!" Calista gasped, her face a mix of terror and exhilaration. Before Alexios could respond, a massive boulder came hurtling through the air, smashing into a nearby tree and reducing it to splinters. Without hesitation, Alexios grabbed Callista's hand and shouted for Ismene to follow as they darted for cover behind a cluster of large rocks. Heart-pounding, Alexios peered around their shelter and caught his first glimpse of their attacker. The Cyclops was even more terrifying than the stories had described, a mountain of muscle and sinew, easily thrice the height of a man, with a single baleful eye that gleamed with malice in the center of its forehead. Yet as Alexios gazed upon the creature, he felt an inexplicable twinge of recognition. The sensation vanished as quickly as it had come, leaving him bewildered and shaken. "We need a plan," Calista hissed, snapping Alexios back to the present danger. Ismene, her wrinkled face set in grim determination, spoke up. "The cave, children. We must reach the great cave we saw from the shore. The answers you seek, and the treasure, lie within its depths." Alexios nodded, his mind racing. They would need to outsmart the Cyclops to reach the cave, a feat worthy of Odysseus himself. As if in response to his thoughts, the sea began to churn violently, waves crashing against the shore with unnatural force. A tingling sensation coursed through Alexios's body, and for a moment he felt as if the very ocean was speaking to him, urging him forward. Pushing aside his confusion, Alexios turned to his companions with a daring glint in his eye. "I have an idea," he said, a roguish grin spreading across his face, "but you'll have to trust me." Little did he know that this plan would be the first step towards unraveling the incredible truth of his heritage. Alexios's plan was as daring as it was dangerous. Using Callista's quick wit and Ismene's knowledge of ancient lore, they managed to lure the Cyclops towards the churning sea. As the massive creature stumbled on the rocky shore, Alexios felt that strange connection to the ocean intensify. Without fully understanding why, he raised his hands towards the waves, and to everyone's shock, including his own, the sea responded. A massive wave rose up, crashing into the Cyclops and sending it sprawling. "By the gods," Calista whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. But there was no time to ponder this miraculous turn of events. Taking advantage of the Cyclops' disorientation, the trio raced towards the yawning entrance of the great cave. As they plunged into its depths, Alexios could hear the enraged roars of the Cyclops echoing behind them, spurring them deeper into the darkness. The cave was a labyrinth of towering stalactites and bottomless chasms. Ismene's staff began to glow with an otherworldly light, illuminating their path. As they ventured further, ancient markings on the walls caught Alexios's eye. Tridents, waves, and single eyes, all intertwined in intricate patterns. A growing sense of familiarity washed over him, as if he were walking through a half-remembered dream. Suddenly, they emerged into a vast cavern, its ceiling lost in darkness high above. In the center stood a pool of water so still it mirrored the rocky ground like polished glass. And there, rising from the pool's center, was a magnificent trident that pulsed with divine energy. "The treasure," Calista breathed, her voice filled with awe. But Ismene shook her head, her eyes fixed on Alexios. "No, child. Not the treasure. The key." Before Alexios could ask what she meant, a earth-shaking roar announced the arrival of the Cyclops. The creature burst into the cavern, its single eye blazing with fury. In that moment of terror and exhilaration, something awakened in Alexios. Acting on pure instinct, he raced towards the pool and grasped the trident. Power surged through him, ancient and familiar. He turned to face the Cyclops, and for the first time truly saw the resemblance, the same sea-green eye, the same proud bearing. And in a flash of divine revelation, Alexios understood. He was no mere fisherman's son. He was the son of Poseidon, god of the sea, and half-brother to the very Cyclops he faced. The cavern fell silent as Alexios stood facing the Cyclops, the trident humming with power in his hands. The creature's single eye widened in recognition, its fury giving way to confusion, and then respect. Alexios felt the weight of his newfound identity settling upon him like a mantle. He was a son of Poseidon, a prince of the sea, and somehow he knew exactly what to do. With a voice that echoed with newfound authority, Alexios addressed the Cyclops in the ancient tongue of the sea, words he never knew he possessed flowing from his lips. The massive being lowered its club, listening intently. Calista and Ismene watched in amazement as Alexios negotiated a truce, not just for them, but for all future visitors to the island. As the tension dissipated, Ismene stepped forward, her eyes twinkling with a mixture of pride and mischief. "I knew from the moment I laid eyes on you, child," she said, her voice carrying the weight of ages. "The sea sang of your coming." Alexios turned to her, questions bubbling up like sea foam. "You knew? All this time?" The old woman nodded, revealing herself to be much more than a simple storyteller. She was a servant of Poseidon, sent to guide Alexios to his destiny. With the immediate danger past, Alexios, Calista, and Ismene sat with the Cyclops, whose name they learned was Brontes. As night fell, they shared stories by a blazing fire at the mouth of the cave. Alexios learned of his divine father, of the secret legacy of the Cyclopes, and of the greater purpose behind their fearsome guardianship of the island. As dawn broke, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold, Alexios stood at the shore, the trident planted in the sand beside him. Calista joined him, her hand slipping into his. "What now, son of Poseidon?" she asked, a hint of teasing in her voice, but her eyes shining with admiration and something more. Alexios gazed out at the horizon, feeling the pull of the sea stronger than ever. "Now," he said, a smile playing on his lips, "the real adventure begins." In the days that followed, Alexios embraced his newfound identity with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The island of the Cyclops became a second home, a place where he could explore his divine heritage away from the prying eyes of mortals. Brontes and his kin proved to be invaluable teachers, sharing secrets of the sea that had been lost to the surface world for generations. Calista, ever the adventurer, threw herself into learning alongside Alexios. Her quick mind and fearless spirit made her an ideal partner in his journey of discovery. As they trained together, mastering the arts of navigation, weather manipulation, and communion with sea creatures, their bond deepened into something more than friendship. Ismene watched their blossoming relationship with a knowing smile, recognizing the threads of fate weaving together. However, Alexios's newfound peace was shattered one stormy night when a fleet of ships appeared on the horizon. At their helm stood a figure Alexios had seen only in dreams, Poseidon himself, come to claim his son. The sea god's arrival brought with it a tide of revelations. Alexios learned of a brewing war among the gods, of ancient prophecies, and of the crucial role he was destined to play in maintaining the balance between the mortal and divine realms. Torn between his new life on the island and the call of his divine duty, Alexios faced the most difficult decision of his young life. Calista, sensing his turmoil, took his hand. "Whatever you choose," she said, her voice steady, "I'll be by your side." Her words gave him strength, reminding him that he was more than just a son of Poseidon. He was Alexios, shaped by his experiences and the bonds he'd forged. As dawn broke on the day of reckoning, Alexios stood on the shore, the trident gleaming in his grip. Calista and Ismene flanked him, with Brontes and the other Cyclops forming an imposing line behind. Poseidon's ships drew near, the sea god's power palpable in the air. But as he faced his divine father, Alexios realized a profound truth. His greatest strength lay not in his godly blood, but in the family he had chosen. With a voice that carried over the crashing waves, Alexios made his choice. He would bridge the gap between mortal and divine, using his unique perspective to bring balance to both worlds. As Poseidon nodded in proud acceptance, Alexios turned to his companions, his eyes shining with determination. "Ready for a real odyssey?" he asked, a roguish grin spreading across his face. And with that a new legend was born, one that would be told around hearthfires for generations to come.